The grand chamber hummed with a low thrum of alien machinery, a steady backdrop to the buzz of interspecies debate. Suspended in orbit above the emerald-swirled planet of Vos Prime, the Galactic Council station gleamed with pristine alloys, its halls filled with representatives of a dozen species. Today, the Council convened to discuss a crisis, but something far more unpredictable was about to unfold. Seated at the center of the chamber, Captain Eli Reyes leaned back in his chair, arms folded, the faintest smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. Clad in a standard-issue diplomatic jacket with the sleeves rolled up to his forearms, he looked more like a mechanic on break than a representative of Earth. His eyes scanned the room, flickering from one speaker to the next, but his attention seemed elsewhere. Human delegation, droned the sharp, metallic voice of the AI Archon. Suspended in the air, its spherical frame spun slowly, a halo of blue light circling its core. You have not offered a solution to the containment breach in sub-level Theta. Reactor destabilization projected at 22 minutes. Current probability of station-wide destruction. 87%. Perfect timing, Eli muttered, running a hand through his short, dark hair. He reached into his jacket pocket, fishing around with practiced ease. Beside him, Callan, a mantis-like ambassador from the Telrothi hegemony, shifted uneasily. His multifaceted eyes darted from Eli's hands to the growing warning lights pulsing red along the chamber's walls. Is he searching for something? Callan's chittering voice clicked out, laced with barely concealed worry. His antennae twitched as his gaze fixed on Eli's casual movements. Likely a weapon, hissed Varu, a cold-blooded strategist from the Vos Dominion. His reptilian eyes narrowed with suspicion. Humans are always reaching for something dangerous when they look that calm. His clawed fingers tapped rhythmically on the edge of the council table. He should be restrained before he makes it worse. Callan glanced at Varu, then back to Eli. Perhaps he's formulating a plan. Then Varu's hiss deepened, his tongue flicking in disbelief. Their plans are half-improvised chaos. I've read the reports. Every major galactic incident involving humans has one phrase in common. At that moment, Captain Eli's hand stopped moving. He pulled out a small, silver canister. He tapped its side twice, and with a sharp hiss, the seal broke, releasing a faint mist of carbonation. The soft, unmistakable sound echoed through the chamber. No, Callan whispered in disbelief, his claws tightening on the table. His gaze darted to the AI Archon. Tell me he didn't just. AI Archon's voice cut in. Audio recognition protocol triggered. Phrase detected. Sosten la cerveza. The AI's glowing light shifted from blue to orange. Incident classification escalated. Council members advised to maintain safe distance from the human delegate. Utter silence fell over the chamber. Every alien present stopped moving. Varu's claws halted mid-tap, his eyes narrowing into slits. Callan's antennae lowered slowly. His gaze locked on Captain Eli as if watching an ancient predator prepare to strike. Even the AI Archon dimmed its spinning lights, observing the scene with quiet calculation. Across the chamber, murmurs began to ripple. Several delegates whispered in hushed, panicked tones. He said it. He actually said it. The phrase had become infamous across the galactic network. It was more than words. It was a signal. Storm warning. Council Directive 16B. AI Archon stated. All personnel are advised to remain calm. Human improvisational maneuvers are statistically unpredictable but have resulted in non-zero success rates. Caution is recommended. Eli took a slow sip from his can, eyes still on the council as if gauging their reactions. His smirk widened just a little. Relax, he said, setting the can down gently on the table. I got this. Here it comes, Varu muttered, leaning back in his seat. His eyes fixed on Eli with grim fascination. The humans always got this until the whole station's on fire. Captain Eli didn't respond. He pushed his chair back, rising slowly. His gaze swept the room, noting every watching eye, every twitching antenna, every flicking tongue. He rolled his shoulders, glanced at the blinking emergency lights, and then nodded to himself. Archon, he called, his voice calm but commanding. Highlight nearest maintenance access to sub-level theta. Highlighting, the AI replied, and a faint green path appeared along the chamber floor, leading to a side door. Captain Reyes, Recallen's voice had a sharp edge of desperation. If you proceed without a coordinated plan, you risk not only your life but ours. This is not a Terran cruiser. You are aboard a unified council station. Recklessness will. Recklessness. Eli glanced back at him, raising an eyebrow. Call it what you want, Bug. I call it handling business. He tilted his head toward the emergency lights. You can sit here and count probability percentages while they tick down to 0, or you can trust me to do what I do best. Recallen's mandibles clicked, but he didn't argue. He'd seen the reports too. Stories from other delegates. Wild tales of humans using gravity inverters to win foot races, reprogramming cargo drones to play high-stakes poker, and in one case, rerouting an asteroid's trajectory with nothing but old starship plating and a lot of luck. You will fail, Varro hissed, his voice like cold steel scraping on stone. Humans rely on hope and luck. Neither will stabilize a reactor. Eli strode toward the maintenance hatch. You're wrong, Lizard, he said without looking back. His voice echoed off the metallic walls. We don't rely on hope. We make it. The hatch slid open with a hiss, and Captain Eli Reyes disappeared into the depths of the station. The soft clunk of his boots on the metal catwalk echoed for several seconds before fading into silence. The council chamber remained deathly still. No one spoke. No one moved. Recallen finally glanced at Varro. He's going to succeed, isn't he? Varro's slitted eyes didn't waver from the hatch. His clawed fingers tapped once. Slowly. If he does, he muttered, it'll only make them worse. Across the room, AI Archon's lights shifted from orange to pale yellow, the color of mild curiosity. Predictive models indicate an 11% chance Captain Reyes succeeds, it noted. Probability of future species, wide emulation of the phrase "Sostén la cerveza," has increased to 46%. No, Recallen whispered, his antennae twitching. Not them too. Varro hissed a short, sharp laugh. Let them try. They'll learn the hard way. But neither of them could deny it. Somewhere, on some distant colony or cargo freighter, another species would hear the legend. Another young, overconfident technician would stare at an impossible task, lift a drink, and utter those words. And every delegate in the chamber knew, in that moment, the galaxy had changed forever. Eli didn't have time to sit back and bask in his success. The emergency lights flickered once more, this time accompanied by a low mechanical groan as the station's systems struggled to stabilize. He straightened, wiping his hands on his jacket, and glanced at the flickering hologram of Archon on his wrist. Status, he asked, his voice a little more strained than he liked, though his body was already in motion. Reactor core stabilization at 56%. Structural integrity at 62% and holding, Archon responded, the AI's voice as flat and factual as always. However, power rerouting has caused strain on secondary systems. Full recovery unlikely within the next 24 minutes. Engineering teams will need to perform secondary repairs. Fine, Eli muttered, shaking his head. The way things were going, he knew the station's primary systems would still be limping by the time they'd figured out the next problem. He moved swiftly down the corridor, the sound of his boots echoing through the twisting, metal-lined passageways. There was no time to relax or celebrate. The station might still blow, and the council would be demanding answers. As he rounded a corner, Eli took a deep breath, already bracing himself for the next inevitable round of questioning. Sure enough, as soon as he reached the central hub, he saw the gathered council members, their alien faces twisted with a mixture of disbelief, awe, and suspicion. They hadn't expected him to succeed. Captain Reyes, Ercallan said, his voice vibrating with a strange combination of irritation and reluctant respect. Explain yourself. How did you stabilize the core? With some ingenuity, a lot of luck, and a little bit of sostén la cerveza, Eli answered with a casual shrug, though he could see the incredulity in the other delegate's eyes. You did this without official clearance, without any proper equipment, and I still saved your asses, Eli interrupted, his voice firm. The reactor's stabilized for now, and the core is under control. The station's not going to blow. That's all you need to know. Ercallan opened his mandibles, but no words came out. The insectoid representative seemed at a loss, something Eli hadn't seen before. Meanwhile, Varu, the vast Dominion representative, narrowed his reptilian eyes, clearly unimpressed, but there was an unspoken wariness in his posture. He'd never liked humans. And yet, there was a grudging acknowledgement of the outcome. Explain this, Varu hissed, his claws tapping sharply on the council table. Your methods are chaotic, but you have succeeded. I do not like it. I'm sure you don't, Lizard, Eli muttered under his breath, but he didn't let his irritation show. I didn't do it for you, Varu. The council members exchanged uncomfortable glances. Even the AI Archon seemed to fall silent, processing the data while its spherical frame hovered near the group. The atmosphere in the room was tense, thick with the weight of unspoken questions. Eli exhaled slowly, his hand instinctively going to the canister of water strapped to his belt. The council was about to ask for something far more difficult than explaining the success. He could already feel it coming. We'll need a full investigation into the events that led up to this, Ercallan said, his voice filled with suspicion. Human methods, unconventional as they may be, are not acceptable in a situation like this. The entire station cannot rely on last-minute improvisation. Yeah, no kidding, Eli responded dryly, finally taking a sip of his water. But if you'd just listened to me about the reactor when we first noticed the issue, we wouldn't be in this mess, would we? The council members froze, their gazes locking on him with varying degrees of distaste. You claim you did this alone? Varu asked, his tone tinged with disbelief. You had no assistance, no backup, just your invention. Eli smirked. That's right. Me and a bunch of junk. He could practically feel the room bristle at his words. They didn't like that, but they didn't have a choice. He had saved their station. I don't know how you people usually handle things, but where I'm from, when the heat's on, you figure it out fast or die trying. Ercallan twitched his antennae, processing the words. You humans, he said after a long pause, a resigned sigh escaping him. You never play by the rules. Eli's grin widened slightly, though there was no humor in it. Rules. The last time I checked, the rules didn't keep a station from blowing up. I did what had to be done. That's it. The council was quiet, and for the first time, Eli realized that the suspicion in their eyes was more than just dislike. It was fear. Fear of what he had done, and more importantly, fear of what humanity was becoming. They didn't understand his methods, but they had no choice but to acknowledge their effectiveness. You act like this was nothing, Varu continued, his voice cutting through the silence. But this is the future. Your species will continue to act impulsively, recklessly. And we will all pay the price for it. Yeah, maybe, Eli said, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. But one thing I know for sure, when you're out of options, the only thing left is to keep going. You think I care about rules when an entire station is about to explode? Varu opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, the AI Archon interrupted, its voice oddly neutral. Captain Reyes, it said, I have analyzed the situation. Based on previous data, I estimate a 42% chance that humanity's methods, while unconventional, are viable for high-risk crisis management scenarios. Further, there is a 23% chance that humanity's willingness to take drastic action will be emulated across other species. Ercallan's antennae twitched with unease. That is your assessment. The AI's response was calculated and matter-of-fact. It is the most accurate prediction, based on known data. Eli didn't wait for more analysis. He took another step forward, his voice firm. You wanted proof that humanity can handle itself. There it is. I've saved your station, fixed your reactor, and done it without waiting for your precious protocols. You want something else from me. There was no response at first. The council was stunned into silence, and Eli's words hung heavy in the room. He could see the way their eyes flickered, the way they processed what had just happened. One thing was clear: they didn't know what to do with him. And that, in itself, was more powerful than any victory. Consider this a lesson, Eli added, his voice low. You don't get to control how humans solve problems. We'll handle it, one way or another. The council members exchanged one final look, a subtle acknowledgement of the truth in his words. Callen was the first to speak. You've made your point, Captain Reyes. But this is far from over. Eli straightened, meeting their gazes. But it's never over. Not until we win.